Pantheon's changes have remade the game. We've finally gotten to see them after months of waiting. Well, I mean, most of them, some of them, not all of them, but the big ones. A lot of them are good, but after playing the PTR, there's definitely some tweaking that needs to be done. And I figured many of you won't be jumping into a test server for an early access game to see what it's like, especially since it's pretty buggy on the test server. So I wanted to give you some insights alongside my loud and obnoxious opinions about what they need to do before pushing this to live. First, time to kill is much longer than it was before. You really feel this very early on because your skill set is so limited. I have to say right now, it does feel pretty damn good, but I have to admit that for some, this might not be the direction they want. I personally love the idea of longer individual fights with greater rewards, but that's kind of against the meta. The meta is fast time to kill with killing swarms of mobs, and I wouldn't be shocked if there wasn't at least one person who rolled up on Pantheon for the first time, spent 40 seconds fighting a rat, maybe died, and then rage quit. The good news is for that person, there are a lot of other MMOs that they can go play that have that exact fast kill meta. The length of the fight means you have to be more conscious of your resources and what skills to use and when, and I imagine this will only become more so in the 20s and 30s because the PTR is capped at level 10 for us. And getting to level 10 was way too fast. Courtesy of Joskar, a wonderful content creator you should definitely go check out on Twitch, especially if you like DJing. Well, he did a bit of math, something I'm notoriously bad at, to get rough numbers for leveling at the current XP rate. Playing a Dialord, they went from level 1 to 8 in 3 hours, focusing on killing dark blues, light blues, and greens, which isn't quite what you think it means, and we'll get to more of that in a second. That doesn't mean just killing the easiest things you can, it means killing the things that are possible to kill. But I think pretty much all of us can agree that 1 to 8 in a game that maxes out at level 50 in 3 hours is way too fucking fast. And I'm personally normally not the one to sit back and say we should slow all this down, because I like things to be fast, which sounds weird. But you know what? Like it's still a little bit too fast. Joskar did the test again in Wild's End with a group and was almost level 6 in another 3 hours. That points to another problem with experience, but the first step has to be slowing the hell down, because right now it seems like it's faster than the current live experience, which is already doubled from what it's supposed to be. Now, if you notice, the solo experience seemed faster. This is kind of due to Joskar playing as an OP class at the time and focusing on killing lower con mobs, but it points to a problem that has been plaguing Pantheon since they decided to move away from flat group experience to group experience split. Essentially, a while back, Pantheon dropped the Lord of the Rings Online model of experience and went for the EverQuest model. I think this was a mistake, and it's really starting to show with the unified mobs, and specifically the faster experience. If your game is designed around the tenets of grouping, but then you also want to need the ability to solo, yes, you do need that. Anyone watching that wants a group-focused game, you have to have solo. You cannot have a game that only has grouping. EverQuest didn't have only grouping. It's actually a very soloable game in a lot of ways. But that's why I think doing it the EverQuest way now in this time is not the answer to our current more antisocial climate. Even people that play EverQuest now are very antisocial. I've been covering MMOs enough over the last few years to realize not just myself, but the community at large will take the antisocial path of least resistance when the option is presented. The way to counter this, though, without being a dick, is basically not getting a big old cudgel that says groups or else, because that'll just drive your player base away. It's actually to make groups very, very attractive to do. Basically to overcome that antisocialness. Basically to overcome that path of least resistance. Grouping should be better than soloing. Soloing needs to be viable, but it should never be a mathematical equation to decide if it's better. So I'm not saying nerf solo experience. I think that's the wrong way, and you get into this whole idea of like trying to balance solo group XP, balancing back and forth. The other option is more straightforward. If people are sitting there calculating, well, if I add one person to the group, it splits our experience, so we'd have to kill twice as fast. That's a nail in the coffin for allowing groups to flourish with some casual nature to them. So basically just drop the experience split. Go the Lord of the Rings Online route. And it's not just Lord of the Rings Online, but that's the one that comes to mind for me. Other games do this just fine. I'm all for nostalgia, but group experience splits are not really worth it to me. because you're asking people to make a judgment on, should I stay solo or should I group with this one person, this random person? Because this random person may be too slow to kill things and it might be worse than if I was soloing. I don't think that should ever come into the conversation of, is the experience worse by grouping? And the easiest way to do that without nerfing solo experience is just dropping the split or drastically reducing the split so it's not very noticeable. Two people killing should always feel better than soloing, and I'm saying that as someone who soloed a shit ton as a necromancer in EverQuest or even other classes with mercenaries. Make the groups feel better with one additional person, and then you'll be more likely to have people just forming up for groups. If you can feel your experience slowing down when you add that first person, people are going to be less likely to group, and it's going to be more about, well, how good are you? Can you keep up with my solo experience? Again, it's going to be a balance because part of this whole thing is to make sure that soloing is viable, but it shouldn't be at the cost of saying, mathematically, is grouping worth it? Mathematically, grouping should always be worth it. The next thing that has to be changed before launch is how first to engage works. And I can't even say if this is the way it's intended, as in the Discord devs for the game have said that this is phase 1 for FTE, and they have additional plans to sew it up. But it really needs sewing up because right now it's essentially free power leveling. First to engage in say EverQuest or EverQuest 2 are actual encounter locked. And if you don't know that it's in EverQuest, well, it was added recently with some of their progression servers. The way it works right now is anyone can help you kill NPCs out of group, and there you get the full experience. This is untenable. It turns the game into insane levels of power leveling because everyone can jump in and murder something as long as you got the first hit. I'd really suggest Pantheon devs consider an encounter locking system over the current FTE because it completely stops this problem in its tracks. I like FTE over DPS races, but this is too powerful right now. This is too exploitable right now. Perhaps the biggest change though are unified NPCs, and I think after seeing it in person, it feels like it's nailing what's needed in the game. Unified NPCs make the world feel much more open. You're no longer stuck saying, oh, I can't even dare try this NPC, it'll kill me in 2 seconds. But I do think because of this, adding in some more mob density in the location where these mobs previously existed, where they were elites, is needed. Camps that used to be great with elites now feel a little too small because the elites have gone away, but the number of NPCs has stayed the same. One place in particular I noticed this was near the bandit camps, which were almost always all dead. I think this is something that as like new NPCs are built out in later zones, it will be better overall because it'll build with the idea of unified NPCs, but some of the older spawn points may need some looking at. This also goes into the EverQuest side of things where mob density was used to make places more dangerous and it allowed for things like FD split pulling. I don't know that we'll ever get that kind of split pulling in Pantheon, given that only monks have FD right now and it's been a bit of a struggle to make it work properly over the years, at least to the same level of EverQuest where it was like a necessary thing that was kind of amazing. But I do think adding in more mob density not only makes crowd control more viable, but it helps with those smaller camps that are currently being kind of overrun because everyone can handle these previously elite mobs when you used to need 4, 5, or 6 people to handle one of them. Just don't do too many, given that the higher TTK and relative power loss for classes are there. Yes, that is one thing I do want to point out here. I would say at current, things are harder than they were before. Like the solo mobs you had before are no longer present. I don't want people to come into this thinking, oh, everything's now a solo mob. They're actually, like, I feel like the relative difficulty has gone up for all mobs, but they've removed the elite tier completely. So like the ceiling is like lowered, but so is the floor. Other places did seem fine with mob density, like the skeletons, for example, seemed okay. So it might be more of a fine-tooth comb sort of thing than a blanket idea of just increasing spawns everywhere. One thing everyone should know now and get used to is that because of these unified mob types, cons are much more important. Consider green, light blue, and dark blue are key for solo experience, but white and higher are very beefy and tough to kill. I don't think once I got to around level 5 or 6, I was really able to solo any yellows I could find. They were just too strong and it really wasn't close. So it's just something people need to adjust to. Now, all that said, overall, I found the updates to be refreshing. Now, all that said, I'm kind of pointing out some things that I think they need to change. But overall, I think that everything that I got to do and experience in the game so far in the PTR was refreshing, and I feel like this can revitalize Pantheon in a really meaningful way. I was hopeful that the changes would feel good, and I'm glad to report that yes, they do feel good, except for those things that I think need tweaking around the edges. But now that you've heard me blathering on, I want to hear what you think. Have you played it? Have you gone on the test server, and what do you think about it? Do you agree with me, or do you vehemently disagree? I want to hear both down in the comment section below. We'll have to wait a little bit longer to get the mastery system stuff in there, which I really want to try soon, as well as the market, which I think is going to be very interesting once it's there. And I do hope they raise the level cap so we can see more of it, and maybe include some things like level NPCs so we can just jump up to a higher level in the testing and actually get to experience what it's like at higher levels, because judging an experience rate on level 1 through 10 is very different from judging an experience from level 1 through 40. My name is Flynn. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will see you all soon.